Hey minions, welcome to Crank It Up. I'm Jim Price, and on this episode of Calling All Titans, I want to talk about Gorgodzolla of the Kaiju. Gorgodzolla is, in my opinion, the premier titan of the Big in Japan set and one of the most powerful titans, although it pales in comparison to the mad titan Thanos. Gorgodzolla is native to the Kaiju, and they have two very good cards that bring it into play. But it also has a regular means of entry. Instead of playing your regular minion, you can play Gorgodzolla on a base where you have two or more actions played on that base. This seems like a good time to formally answer a question that I've been asked about 30 times in the last 2 months, and it has to deal with Gorgodzolla getting a counter from Tiny Priestesses, and oh no. It's worth noting, the rulebook says that they do get the counter, which I agree with. Here's why. When you play Tiny Priestesses, you resolve its ability first, before proceeding with the card resolution order. Its ability brings Gorgodzolla into play, so Gorgodzolla is in play as of step 1 before we get to step 3 of Tiny Priestesses. Thus, Gorgodzolla would trigger because I did play a minion on that base, and therefore the power counter should be placed. Now, the rulebook has the same verdict for oh no regarding the counter, but doesn't mention the card. It stands to reason that if you get the counter, you also get the card. Getting one but not the other would make no sense, as the wording is identical. Critics of this ruling cite that Gorgodzolla was not in play at the time the card was played, but I've read the rulebook numerous times, even once more just now, and the rulebook never actually mentions this as a rule. Admittedly, the card resolution order is inconsistent in how it is applied, but I argue that it's the other rulings that are wrong, and that this one is the most natural, consistent wording. It has everything go in order, and it makes sense to me. I don't want this to be a debate. I just wanted to cite my reason on why I agree with the ruling. And you can do some really cool things with this. If Oh No can get a power counter, then Johnny playing Oh No should also get 2 counters, because Johnny step 1 leads into Oh No step 1, and Gorgodzolla is in play for both step 3s. I would have been terrified if the final play in March Smashness came down to whether or not that one power made a difference, and fortunately Johnny's counter wasn't necessary. So that's my official position on Gorgodzolla, and if that is not the intent, then I'd like to see a bulletproof card resolution order or a fundamental rules change that ends the debate once and for all. But this video isn't to talk about card tech semantics, but to talk about Gorgodzolla and why it is awesome. Gorgodzolla is both an engine and a power factory. Minions give power. Actions give power and cards. The Kaiju have a lot of play on base actions, but I mentioned before that the on-play nature of them makes it hard to want to waste them. Yet bringing out Gorgodzolla is crucial because without it, you lack the card draw needed to ensure that you get to the very cards that bring it out efficiently. My most throwaway action is Radioactive Breath, because it does the least breakpoint damage, adds the least power creep, and has the most copies at 3. It's great to lead with the Folly of Men, but you need 2 actions, and Gorgodzolla can easily draw 2 or 3 cards per base, which is a significant return on investment even without the associated power. It's important to build up counters on Gorgodzolla for a number of reasons. First, he is mobile. It's often good to play a lot of actions and minions to build it up, only for Gorgodzolla to continue his good work elsewhere. If the math lines up, I like to move Gorgodzolla over and replace that power with Kaijuki, because it is inefficient to use Gorgodzolla's regular entry multiple times. I'd rather have those actions for creating 2 more power and drawing 2 more cards. I can also pivot with Oh No, either playing it on a base by itself, or using Johnny to pull it back and play it again to move Gorgodzolla. More power it has, the more devastating the pivot. The other aspect to consider is that Gorgodzolla is largely untouchable since it is a Titan. It's very hard to remove from play outside of a clash, and the more power it has, the harder it is to lose a conflict, and because it is mobile, it becomes a great way of initiating and winning a conflict. Another interesting way to pivot is to use the Time Travelers to replay Tiny Priestesses, moving Gorgodzolla onto another base and generating another power. If your minion play is Johnny, the action form of Do-Over, you can bring over a powerful action for 2 more counters, a card, and whatever that action brings. There's an interesting trade-off with There Goes Tokyo. To bring Gorgodzolla into play, you need to invest a good amount on its current base. To blow up the base means to lose that investment, but there's generally a reason. Sometimes it's fun to move Gorgodzolla with the Kaiju conflict, and There Goes Tokyo, only to move it right back after destroying the base. but sometimes you need to accept that the base is a losing proposition and just cut your losses. In this case, having the power there lets you maintain some level of investment beyond the cards you drew and the cards you played. In terms of raw power, Gorgodzolla can get powerful quickly because it triggers after every minion and action that you play. On the workshop, it's not even fair, as you get power and cards and can potentially break the base by yourself in a single turn while spending cards, but not necessarily lowering your hand. One of the reasons I liked Kaiju Innsmouth so much is that the locals quickly powered up Gorgodzolla, which made oh no pivots very powerful. In terms of maximizing value, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. The more power you add, the faster the base breaks, which means that you will lose access to your engine. In many respects, Gorgodzolla has some of the same struggles as the Killer Queen. Mobile minions are great, as Gorgodzolla gets the power counter, but it's more of a slow creep. One of the reasons why Kaiju Truckers are so amazing is because they can play the action and the minion, activating both of Gorgodzolla's benefits, and move themselves off. In fact, they have the perfect card in Cab Over Pete to move Gorgodzolla itself, making it a very easy way to destroy a base. Note that even playing monsters would trigger Gorgodzolla, which is another way to derive long-term value. I love the Kaiju Halflings because their catch-up strategy plays perfectly into Gorgodzolla in multiple ways. Tiny Priestesses can bring Gorgodzolla into play, then a Rude Awakening gives you additional power for all the minions you dump. Lunch Run turns Gorgodzolla into play anything and draw a card. In fact, there's a really fantastic way to combine the two, and it's not that hard. You just need Gorgodzolla in play with Oh No. If you play a Pestling on one base, you can bank that extra play. Play Rude Awakening on a base with Lunch Run or two to draw a bunch of cards after each minion is played. Because of how Rude Awakening works, those cards aren't drawn until after the reveal. If one of those drawn cards is Johnny, he can be your extra play on the Pestling base, bringing Oh No and Gorgodzolla fresh with a bunch of counters into the Pestling base. It's possible to break both on the same turn, especially when you mix in a Kaiju conflict. There are many other examples of swarm-based factions who can do something similar to generate a lot of counters. As far as the action route goes, this is even more ridiculous. There are a number of heavy play on base factions, not just the truckers, that are obvious pairings for the Kaiju. I won't go over them because some of them are too powerful and unfun to play, but it's easy to see why Gorgodzolla is so powerful, and using your cards appropriately to bring him out quickly is paramount. He grows more counters than most event kit titans, but at least that is factored in to the overall Kaiju balance. What do you think of Gorgodzolla? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let's shut it down.